Hello, I'm Karika, and welcome to Alight by Luminica. This is a teen-rated fanfiction reading, and the summary is, in which Baum drinks so much the lines between him and Kuhn blur even further. The world is spinning around him. He probably had too much to drink, about 6 glasses ago. There's a restless energy sparking through all his nerve endings, making itself known with every beat of his heart. Next to him, his best friend watches attentively, deep blue eyes focused on him alone. His long fingers are wrapped around a half-empty glass of water, the ice cubes causing the smooth material to fog up with condensation. His hand must be freezing like this, Bam thinks dazedly. Kuhn's hands are always so cold. The tension vibrates through him, humming, shifting into an unbearable urge to hold Kuhn's palm between his own to warm it up. Bam distantly recalls that this is the party that Isu decided to throw, but the reason they're celebrating escapes him. It's a nice gathering, but Baum can't help but think that the best one at organizing these things is Kuhn, after all. Kuhn, he looks so focused. Like the only people left in the world are the two of them, regardless of their friends laughing and dancing in the background. Baum has never been a good dancer, but as the music sways and the lights flash behind them, soft shadows playing on Kuhn's expression, Baum thinks that he might be willing to try.
Kunzi,
he calls, his voice wavering. His friend's eyes are pools of azure brilliance, sweeping him in like a tidal wave. They bore into him, inspecting him carefully, calculating and considering. Those eyes trail downward, Baum's entire body stiffening at the attention.
Baum, there's chocolate on your mouth.
He points out with a sigh, fond resignation coloring his tone. It's probably from one of those sugary cocktails he had before, Baum thinks. Kuhn's thumb reaches out to swipe at it, his cold fingertip coming into contact with the corner of Baum's lips. Electricity sparks throughout his body in waves, his spine instinctively straightening up. Kuhn touching him in any way is exhilarating. Maybe it's the alcohol playing tricks on his mind, or the intensity of Kuhn's gaze. Perhaps it's the way Baum can no longer register anything else, the rest of the world far away. He doesn't know what it is, but it makes him tentatively hold Kuhn's wrist in his hands, his pulse fluttering against Baum's skin. It's soothing, comforting, like Kuhn's constant presence in his life after all these years. There's something tender in Kuhn's expression, his lips curling up in that special way they do that is reserved only for him. It's almost enough to take his breath away, his eyes instantly fixating on Kuhn's mouth. His heartbeat pounds heavily in his head, echoing throughout his body. His thoughts go astray, and once again he finds himself unable to put a name to them. Words have always been difficult for Baum. Most of the time, he doesn't have the right vocabulary to convey the emotions he experiences, the things he wants others to know. That's why, when his eyes linger a moment too long on Kuhn's lips, his throat closes on emptiness, all sound eluding him entirely.
Baum.
He forcibly tears his gaze away, his hands impulsively tugging at Kuhn's wrist to hide his face against his palm. Somehow, Kuhn's skin has warmed up by now. Kuhn's hands are so soft. Of course they are, since Kuhn always takes so much care of himself. They smell faintly of lotion, a subtle and comforting scent that Baum has grown so accustomed to.
Baum, do you not feel well? We don't have to stay if you don't want to, you know.
Even when Baum takes a moment to answer, his friend doesn't reject him or pull away. Something in him swells at the notion. Kun has always accepted him whole, even the parts of himself that Baum cannot bear to look at. How could Baum ever begin to explain how much Kun means to him? Words. He needs...
I like it when you take care of me, Kunsi.
He blurts out suddenly, the confession spilling from somewhere deep within him. There's a moment in which everything seems frozen, like time has stopped altogether. The only thing Baum can perceive is the upbeat song blasting through the speakers, his gaze hidden behind the shelter of Kun's hand. His face is burning. Kun's palm moves slowly, uncovering Baum's eyes to inspect them. It settles on Baum's cheek, firm and grounding.
I know,
Kun says quietly, like he's sharing a secret. With how loud the music is, Baum is certain that he shouldn't be able to hear it, but he does. It tugs at him, a thread unraveling. He nuzzles into Kun's hand, basking in its newfound warmth.
You don't.
Baum refutes, frustration clear in his tone.
You don't know anything.
He winces as soon as it's out of his mouth. Kun's hand twitches.
Baum.
That came out wrong.
I don't...
He hurries to explain, anxiety and regret coiling in his gut.
I didn't mean it like that. I never know the right thing to say. I never show it.
Despite Kun's eyes being half-lidded, Baum is so enthralled by them he feels as though he could drown in them. Not a single trace of doubt in his expression. His hands wander lower, moving to smooth out the rumpled collar of Baum's shirt. He does it carefully, meticulously, in a way that Baum has learned is very much like Kun. An embarrassing noise catches in Baum's throat, his brain hazy from more than just alcohol.
You show it enough,
He says slowly.
even without words.
Dazedly, Baum tries to understand why Kun even bothers having this conversation with his very much intoxicated self. But it seems to ignite something in him, because a foreign sensation is rushing up his throat, numbing the tip of his tongue. There is so much he has always wanted to tell his friend, but he can never figure out how. And now that Kun is saying these things, acting this way, he finds himself out of breath, his throat straining with unreleased tension. The words burn. They want out.
Kunsi.
He breathes, and those blue eyes flick back up to his face, always on him, always watching. Baum doesn't understand how it took so long for him to notice when it's clear as day.
Yes. Even if you say that, I still want to tell you more.
He swallows hard, the buzzing sensation in his limbs making him lightheaded and dauntless.
Will you let me?
Kun tilts his head slightly, curious mirth coming alive in his eyes.
Go ahead,
He says, and he seems amused, like he's having the time of his life. There's a heat to his gaze, something thrilling yet intimate, as though Baum is a puzzle he wants to take apart and put back together behind closed doors, where no one else can see. Something about that thought makes the back of his neck itch, warmth creeping up his chest at an alarming rate. Baum wonders if it's just his imagination. He attempts, his voice high-strung.
I like how you always know what I need right away, sometimes before I even realize it.
Kun snorts.
Baum, that's just a strategist's job, isn't it?
Baum shakes his head on instinct. Admittedly, he hasn't had many strategists since he begun this crazy journey, but he knows for a fact the way Kun treats him goes beyond that.
You can't say that, Kunsi. There's no way that's what this is.
Kun gives him a quizzical look. Baum thinks he might be teasing.
It's not. No.
Baum insists, tugging at Kuhn's hands to place them back on his face, right where he needs them.
Why is that?
Kuhn's breath fanning over his skin as he speaks smells good, like fresh spearmint instead of alcohol, somehow more intoxicating than any drink. Something tells him he is going to regret this tomorrow, but if he doesn't say it today, he doesn't think he ever will.
Because I like it when your hands are on me, Quincy.
His mouth moves faster than his brain, to the point he can no longer process or control the things he's saying before they're out in the open.
I like it when you touch me,
he clarifies, like he needs to make sure he's getting his point across. Kuhn pauses as he swallows hard, the bob of his throat unfairly alluring. He breaks eye contact, focusing on their friends still dancing, every single one of them unbothered by the fact Baum might internally combust any minute now.
Baum, I think you had too much to drink. I'll get you some water. Do you want something to eat, too? It'll help.
But all Baum's eyes can fixate on is Kuhn's mouth, the way it moves as he speaks. He already knows his breath smells incredibly good, and that his lips are undoubtedly soft from how glossy and plump they look. The fact that Kuhn uses cherry-flavored chapstick at least 3 times a day. He wonders how they would taste. Drunk on adrenaline, he draws even closer, a fingertip apart from Kuhn's face. Kuhn's breath hitches, and Baum sees it as the clear warning it is. Yet,
I'd rather have you instead.
He chokes out regardless, every rational thought void. Kuhn clears his throat as he pulls away, and Baum distantly thinks he might have overstepped some serious boundaries. In his current state, however, he can't possibly bring himself to be sorry about any of it.
All right, that's enough,
Kuhn tells him sternly, a hint of embarrassment in his voice. Baum's blood boils with the knowledge that he's the one who caused that.
You need to sleep.
Baum finds himself outside in seconds, cold shinzu hitting his face and his arm hanging off Kuhn's shoulder. His body feels almost weightless, unsteady, like he's lost any semblance of control over his own limbs. There's a coat snugly wrapped around his body, embracing him, and Baum dazedly realizes it doesn't belong to him. Time skips around in a disorienting way, moments of recognition flashing across his mind. A taxi pulling up at the curbside, Kuhn's shoulder against his cheek when he dozes off. Familiar arms picking him up with ease, the jangling of keys when a door opens. Steady hands helping him out of a coat that isn't his and the dirty clothes underneath, a warm set of pajamas that smells like fresh laundry taking their place. He's placed on the bed carefully, his body sprawled all over the comforter. His head throbs when Kuhn's warmth seems to leave him.
Wait.
He rasps out. His own voice sounds far away.
Don't go, Quincy.
Kuhn's weight sinks into the mattress right next to him.
I'm just getting you some water, Baum.
Baum shakes his head weakly. He can feel the beginning of an ache building inside of him. It tastes like emptiness, his mouth dry.
I don't want that, Quincy. I just want you to kiss me.
He pronounces it directly, straightforwardly, like something he's been too scared to say his entire life is running rampant through his veins. Kuhn doesn't reply right away. For a moment, there's only silence. All Baum can hear is the beat of his own heart, and the weight on the mattress doesn't shift a millimeter.
Aguero,
he insists, the name coming out on its own. Soft lips are pressed to his forehead almost immediately, lingering for a second too long. Painfully gentle, the affectionate gesture makes Baum gasp, sending a shiver down his spine. His eyes open automatically, his friend's expression coming into view as he pulls away.
No, Aguero,
he protests.
You know that's not what I mean.
Kuhn gazes tenderly at him, his breath warm against Baum's face.
You're drunk.
He murmurs, barely above a whisper, and despite his caring expression, he looks conflicted. He knows that, but...
I've always felt this way, Aguero.
He confesses, the notion sobering him up momentarily, and he knows he should regret it, but he can't.
Always.
Kuhn sighs in defeat, his expression shifting into the one he wears whenever he knows arguing will get him nowhere. Despite being such a competitive person and the fact that he is currently facing a losing battle, he doesn't seem upset.
Okay.
He gives in.
But only one, alright?
Baum doesn't know how he could possibly satisfy this hunger in him with just one. He nods nonetheless, because if that's all he can get, then he'll take it. Awareness comes to him in broken intervals, Kuhn's lips against him vivid like a lucid dream. The sheer want in him is electrifying, hot and cold all at once, shivering through him in endless cycles. He doesn't know how long it lasts, but it's nowhere near enough, Kuhn's unreadable face drawing back much too soon. There's a helpless noise coming out of his throat, but he's too far gone to be capable of embarrassment at this point. Kuhn huffs an amused sound, soft and fond, and his mouth curls into a pleased smile.
That's all you get for now.
Kuhn whispers tauntingly, his lips so close yet so far. Baum's frustration grows even further.
Next time, make sure you stay sober if you're gonna ask for these things. Next time?
Overwhelmed, Baum's brain short-circuits, failing to comprehend Kuhn's statement. Kuhn hums in confirmation, low and drawn out. Those blue eyes glint dangerously, his smirk growing wider.
Or anything else your stubborn mind might come up with.
He offers, something warm and thrilling rushing through Baum at his tone. Does Kuhn think he is only asking for it because of the alcohol? If that's the case, he really needs to...
I'll feel this way tomorrow too, Aguero.
He whispers, not a hint of hesitation in his voice.
And the next day, and the day after that.
Kuhn looks positively ethereal, a halo of light coming from above surrounding his silvery blue hair, his eyes glimmering like this for Baum. Always only for Baum. Any trace of restraint he has left crumbles at the sight, and he's sinking in it, drowning. He repeats it in his mind. He wants this tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. Without Kuhn, everything else will be meaningless, and Baum will never be whole. It prickles at his skin like a dawning revelation, an unshakable resolve, and Baum utters the only thing that makes sense to him then.
Aguero, marry me.
The words seem to spill out by themselves, like something has unlatched in his chest after so long. Like this is the single piece he has always been missing, because Baum knows that as long as Kuhn remains by his side, he will never experience the crushing feeling of loneliness again. Admittedly, Baum is not in the most lucid state of mind at the moment. But even so, he knows what he is saying, understands the weight of his words, and for all the time Baum has spent trying to find himself, he realizes that this is part of his answer. Kuhn stares in stunned silence, like he cannot believe what Baum is saying. Baum's heart pounds relentlessly in his chest, and his skin burns as Kuhn holds his hand, delicately running his fingertips over his skin.
You're proposing to me without a ring?
He asks tentatively, like that somehow even matters. And frankly, Baum believes that the word normal has never applied to them or their relationship. A glorified piece of paper or a metallic band couldn't possibly make a difference. He was certain that Kuhn was the same, but his surprised expression makes his conviction falter.
Do we really need one?
He asks honestly, suddenly uncertain. At this point, he was sure that his feelings were returned, that there was no way Kuhn would ever say no, but the corner of Kuhn's mouth twitches, an obvious smile tugging at his lips. It sets Baum's blood ablaze, and he finds himself holding his breath. It tastes like victory, like everything that has ever gone wrong is now right somehow, because Kuhn is going to say yes, because... Kuhn bursts out laughing, interrupting that train of thought in its tracks. He laughs and laughs and laughs, as though he's never heard anything funnier, Baum opening his heart to him like this. He can only stare, dumbfounded, while Kuhn clutches his stomach as he settles down, wiping a single tear away. And as much as he wants to get upset at him, Baum isn't even able to feel hurt about it, because he's certain he's never seen Kuhn laugh this way before, and he looks strikingly beautiful. He swallows hard, his heart seething with want.
Is it really that funny?
He forces himself to ask, suppressing the overwhelming urge to pout. Kuhn's hand is back on his in a second, rubbing every crevice and muscle soothingly, tracing his fingers one by one. He tenderly caresses his thumb, his index, his middle, and then... When he reaches his ring finger, Kuhn tugs lightly at it, silently calling Baum's attention to it. Baum's breath catches in his throat when he glances down, because, sure enough, there's a golden band hugging it. He looks up to meet Kuhn's pleased expression, Baum's eyes wide and incredulous as he attempts to process what that means.
I'm already married.
Kuhn's smile grows wider as he hums in confirmation, his eyes half-lidded and shining with what could only be described as devotion. He kisses Baum's cheek, pressing his forehead against his temple, whispering over his skin.
Best 10 years of my life. Happy anniversary, Baum.
Baum awakes to a familiar hand shaking him gently. The smell of freshly brewed coffee overwhelms his senses, offering a distraction from his splitting headache. Distantly, he regrets the amount of alcohol he had the night before.
Baum.
Aguero calls quietly, keeping his voice at a comfortable volume, something Baum is deeply grateful for. His hands cup Baum's cheeks, gradually bringing him back to the real world. Baum groans regardless, but the temperature of Aguero's skin is incredibly comforting.
Come on, wake up.
Aguero's palms move slowly, brushing his sweaty bangs away from his forehead, tucking long strands behind his ear.
It's almost noon. You know you'll feel even worse later if you oversleep. I know.
He concedes with a sigh, his throat hoarse and scratchy. Of course, Aguero presses an almost freezing glass of water against his face before he even gets to realize he is thirsty, and fuck, that feels good.
You should have some water. It'll help. I brought some medicine, too.
Baum downs it as soon as the words leave Aguero's mouth, followed by the small pills that he is handed. His husband has kept the blinds down for him, but the window is slightly ajar, a relieving breeze seeping in through the wooden gaps. He's so thoughtful, always taking care of him like this. Baum cannot comprehend how he ever took any of that for granted.
Thank you, Aguero.
He murmurs, and Aguero pets his head affectionately in response. Baum leans into it, greedily pressing back as though asking for more.
Anytime, Baum.
When Baum finally gets up, it's several minutes later. His headache hasn't entirely subsided, and his stomach seems to be furious at him, Understandably so. Aguero is relaxing by the dining room table, sipping at his black coffee as he looks through various pamphlets and catalogs, examining them carefully. Bomb's legs feel slightly wobbly and unsteady, but he eventually makes it to his chair and sits down across him.
Good morning, Bomb.
Aguero says, a small smile directed at him.
Good morning, Aguero.
He responds quietly, and another glass of water is placed in front of him in a matter of seconds.
Are you ready for breakfast?
Aguero asks simply. Bomb is honestly surprised he is not making fun of him already, especially after what happened the night before. The memory makes him freeze up instantly. That's right, the night before. He swallows, shaking his head in an attempt to snap out of it. A silent oath forms in his head, swearing he'll never drink that much for the rest of his life. Perhaps even not at all. God, he's such a jerk, making Aguero take care of him while he was drunk out of his mind like that.
No. Would you like coffee instead? I'm fine.
He tenses up as soon as he glances down, because scattered all over the wooden surface, Bomb finds the endless amount of pamphlets. Wedding pamphlets.
What?
He asks breathlessly. He looks back up at Aguero, trying to find answers in his face, but as usual, Aguero's expression is entirely unreadable, until...
You asked me to marry you, didn't you?
Aguero says, his signature smirk taking over his face. Bomb clenches his teeth, an offended noise escaping him because he knew it. He's making fun of him. Aguero gets up from his chair suddenly, gracefully making his way towards him, and his palms land on Bomb's shoulders, rubbing them slowly. The pressure is grounding, draining the indignation right out of his body.
I was drunk, Aguero. No.
Aguero interrupts, and Bomb pauses. That word sounds unfamiliar in Aguero's tone of voice, at least directed to him.
No?
He feels his husband's weight leaning on him momentarily as he reaches over to get one of the pamphlets, placing it in front of Bomb and tapping his finger over it to get his attention. The golden ring on his hand glints with the movement, reflecting the light coming from outside.
We are married, but we never got a proper ceremony. I thought...
He clears his throat awkwardly, like finding the right words is difficult.
This time, we could have a wedding cake, since you like sweets so much, and we could invite all of our friends and have professional photos taken so we can frame them and place them all around the house.
Bomb inhales sharply in realization. Since they had eloped and gotten married in between wars, all they ever got were some wedding bands and signed papers. Bomb didn't think he needed anything else. Those things, they have never mattered to him. They don't. Aguero hides his face against the back of Bomb's shoulder, exhaling shakily.
So you won't ever forget again.
He breathes, barely above a whisper. Bomb can clearly perceive the vulnerability seeping through his voice even without seeing his face.
Just say yes, Bomb.
His body moves almost out of instinct, getting up despite the weakness of his limbs. He turns around, wrapping his arms tightly around Aguero, squeezing the air out of his lungs. Aguero hugs him back immediately, because he always does, his hands gripping the back of Bomb's pajama shirt. This man who has always given himself whole to Bomb without ever asking for anything in return was conveying so much to him, and it meant something. Aguero's pulse thrums against Bomb's skin, fast and erratic, alive and ever-present, and Bomb wants to give him everything.
Aguero, yes.
He says, capturing his lips.
Yes, yes.
He slurs against his mouth in between intermittent kisses, an internal battle between how much he wants to tell him with words and how much he wants to say without them. He finally pulls back, cupping his face in his hands, and Aguero's expression seems relieved, almost exhausted. Bomb glances at the pamphlets once more, really looks at them. His mind wanders to the possibility, dazzling colors already painting an image in his head. Scattered petals on silky cloth, flowers wrapped around an arch, a scenery bursting with radiance and sound. In the middle of it all, at the center of Baum's universe, his most precious person waits for him, bright and ethereal, just like the first time he offered his hand to Baum.
Anything you want.
Baum whispers, looking back into his azure eyes.
I want to give it to you.
His lips hover over Aguero's, grazing them with every word, almost swallowing the quiet intake of breath he receives in response.
Always.
If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're interested in more videos like this, please consider subscribing. Check out my description for a link to my Ko-fi, and I hope you all have a good morning, noon, or night.